Well, hello everyone. I thought I would make a video with coloring, some coloring fun, show you some different tips and techniques for coloring. I found this amazing Hero Art stamp kit, October 29 stamp of the month, their monthly club kit. It's a retro Christmas kit, and I absolutely loved it. Found it actually on clearance or on sale and bought it, and so we're going to have some fun. And what I did was I took some different types of paper. I took some regular lightweight cardstock, this right here, and went ahead and stamped images on it using the archival ink. Just an assortment of images. We're going to color those in probably on this paper. It's a little bit lighter, so we're going to use colored pencil on that one. But found some, just went ahead and stamped these out. Now I did stamp this with archival ink onto Yupo paper. I was going to color with alcohol inks, but I did not like the way it worked out at all, so we're just going to leave that out of the video. But we'll show you the finished product and give you some, a little bit of explanation about that there. But the biggest one is these on watercolor cardstock, heavy watercolor cardstock. Now these are just a variety of different ways we can color these, and so we're going to show you those as well. But I went ahead and got everything stamped out and ready to go. Again, on regular, this is heavy watercolor cardstock that you can get from Hobby Lobby, and then also the regular lightweight cardstock over there to the left. All right, so we're going to do something just a little bit different today. We're going to actually try and see how the quality of the sound is. We normally dub over our videos, but this is actually live, me live here. So I've already shown you our different card stocks and what we're working on. And what I'm going to do right now is talk about the different ways we can color this in. Now this is on just, again, it's just on light cardstocks, very light cardstock. So if I'm going to color that in, one of my favorite coloring tools is colored pencils. Any colored pencils you want to use. Cheap, expensive, it really doesn't matter. You just find a colored pencil you like. I've got hundreds of colored pencils that I've accumulated through the years, and I just grab whatever colored pencil. I just grab a container of colored pencils, whatever, whatever's close by. Another way you can do it is Tombow. Tombow has some great brush pens. All right, these Tombow brush pens, these are blendable markers. Okay, to some degree, when a little tricky, a little bit of a learning curve on these, but if you're just using one color and you get a nice range of colors. I like this one because you see these colors here, these pastel colors. Then you got your vivid colors. You got, this is actually called your bright palette. This is your pastel palette. Then you've got your primary palette. So these are the Tombow brush pens that I have. And you can blend those a little bit. So these are some nice colors in here that you could use for this Christmassy scene. So we'll probably do a little bit with the dual brush pens. All right. Then you also have your alcohol markers. Your alcohol markers work great on certain cardstocks. We're going to use them probably on this card. So we may try these just a little bit. You do want to be careful because I noticed that when I was using the alcohol inks, even though this is archival ink, the ink tended to run. So I'm not sure how that's going to react yet. So we may play with this because I like these colors, especially for these cars. So I may try that. And when all else fails, alcohol ink on watercolor cardstock. Okay, it's going to absorb the ink pretty well. It's not going to blend much because it's alcohol ink, but that's a good solid piece of cardstock right there. So you do have alcohol markers. You can use those. Then you have just your regular assortments of colored markers. So these are just creative coloring markers. And these are chisel tip and a fine tip. And so you can use these just for a variety of things. So we may experiment a little bit with that, maybe on the watercolor, or maybe even just on the heavy cardstock. So, and then we've also got this Aqua Pen. I got this at Hobby Lobby. These are water-based markers also, so we're going to use those. We could use those great on the watercolor cardstock. And they're a little bit blendable, not the most blendable, but they do work. They work okay. And then just, and these are just really cheap brush markers. Okay, and I mean, when I say cheap, I mean really cheap. Got these, use them. I use them for a few projects every now. I don't use these a lot, and when these use up, I probably won't buy these again. But whatever you have handy will work with. So we're actually going to do quite a bit of coloring. And we're going to show you that as we go. Now, another way that we're going to color is we're actually going to color with distress ink. So we're actually going to use ink. So I'm going to put some ink down on my palette over here, and I'm actually going to work off of that, and I'll show you what I mean by that in just a little bit. I don't have those inks out yet. So this is what we're going to do. So we got everything ready. So I'm just going to pretty much just start coloring. and just kind of color. And then once we're all done, we're going to die cut these, and we'll show you what they look like when everything is die cut out. So other than that, and I will go ahead and show you this. So originally we had worked with some alcohol, put some on this Yupo paper, and so I don't like the way it turned out. So a lot of things happened here. I found out that archival ink slides on the Yupo paper, so my ink kind of blurred quite a bit, so not real happy about that. Live and learn, first time doing that. Tried dabbing the alcohol, tried painting with alcohol inks, and the ink it wants to run when you're using alcohol, and it wants to spread out, and it wants to do a lot of different things. And so in the end, I didn't like the way the alcohol inks, and this was just me playing around with blending and merging. You can see that when you rub the alcohol ink over the image, it just completely took the image away. I like the colors. I like what it does. We're gonna have to play with that a little bit more before I use this as a regular inking or painting technique. I'll probably just ink with my alcohol inks, just use that for backgrounds and other things. Did create a nice wash with the alcohol inks. So potentially, if we could get rid of some, if I could play with enough to get rid of some of these marks, these brush strokes, you could paint a color with some shading in it and then just die cut that out completely. If I were to take the car and sort of layer it over that, say, I think that would be a really nice color just for a shadow background for this vehicle without actually having the stamped image on it. Or you could even go back after the fact and using a stamping platform, stamp the image over your background. So that might be the best way to go with that. But for now, we're just not going to fool with coloring with alcohol ink. So this is just set aside, and I'm going to keep this because this is a learning curve, what I call the learning curve. This is a learning sheet. If I ever need to remind myself of alcohol inks and how they work with trying to color with them, this is going to be a reminder. But I do like this technique, so we'll probably revisit this in a future video. So with that in mind, I'm going to get everything together, and I'm just going to start coloring. And while I'm coloring, just be some music playing in the background, and you can just kind of watch as we color, get some ideas. When we're all done, we'll see how they look when they're die cut, and hopefully there'll be some encouragement for you. When you're making cards, one of the things I like about making cards, again, if this isn't a stress reliever for you, if this is relaxing for you, if you want to do this as a business, good luck. There's a lot of people out there making cards right now. There are a lot of designers out there. You can do it, but I recommend you have a plan if you want to do that. But if you just want to have fun, this is all I'm doing with these videos. My website is just to encourage people to create. Because as I've said before, one of the greatest gifts that we have from God is the ability to create. So use what you have to create. Have fun. Make something that suits you and just enjoy it. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to color, because coloring is relaxing for me. And so I'm going to take this and I'm just going to spend a little time. We're going to color as long as it takes. And then when we're done, we'll see what it looks like. So we'll see you on the other side. All right, guys, so apologize for the shaky videos. We tried to fix that up a little bit. We're going to have to adjust our camera for future videos. We got to the fireplace now, and I was trying to decide what to do with this. I liked the brown for the brick and everything, and went ahead and grabbed those markers, the old markers, the ones that I said aren't very good, that I don't like using, and decided, I think these actually would work really well to kind of fill in the grout around the fireplace. So what I did was I just took the marker and went ahead and just filled in around the grout using that gray marker. When you're using a marker, the trick here is you don't have to overshadow it or shade it. You don't have to fill in all the gaps, because every spot you miss when you're coloring actually creates a shadow effect. So as you can see here, I'm just kind of drawing quickly over the open spaces and just letting the width of the marker tip itself sort of fill in those spaces. And then once we're done with that, we're going to go over the whole thing with the brown colored pencil to get that look on the brick. So you'll notice that as we work through coloring these different pieces, that we'll try different markers. I'll grab a marker here and a colored pencil there, and you can mix and match. You'll see there on the benches at the bottom, we actually stayed with the colored pencils. I love that green, kind of that, definitely gives it that retro kind of light neon green look, and the brown wood finish. So much of the retro look has that wood finish in the houses, and again, these fireplaces with the stonework. So the little rounded table, the record player. And you'll notice we did that. We used the silver marker that we're using here for the grout. We actually used a lighter marker to create those legs, those metal legs, and even the record player on the inside. So we're just mixing and matching just a little bit. Once we get all this done here, we're just going to go over the whole thing with the colored pencil. And the catch is, when you do that, once you've laid this part in, all I need to do at this point, once I get all of the grout filled in, is just take the colored pencil and just shade over the whole thing. You actually don't have to go in each individual brick. So I'm using the darker brown there to get that mantle put together, and then we're going to grab the lighter one when we get to the brick. At this point I'm going to go ahead and just shade in some yellow behind the fireplace to get that hue and that glow around the logs. Putting a little extra dark on the bottom there for the coals. Then we're going to touch up with a little bit of orange just to kind of get the orange and yellow to give it that red glow. We'll put a little red in there too. We'll actually color in those flames to give some perspective to that. So grabbing the red pencil now just to make those flames stand out a little bit more. And then actually shading the logs with a little bit of red and brown, just letting the colored pencil kind of blend in over itself so it looks like the logs are actually burning. So just have fun coloring. That's the key. When you're working with a stamp and die set like this, just have fun. Again, this is relaxing for me. This took a while. This video is sped up. Everything you're going to see, the length of time it took to do this, not, much, much longer. Multiply it by about 4 and then include, all the times and the things that I edited out. So as you can see here, all I'm doing is I'm just shading over the whole thing, not trying to go over each individual brick. I'm just shading it to get that finished look and pressing harder in some areas, and there is my beautiful fireplace. And then just touching it in with a little more yellow around the edges to give that pop. And that looks amazing. So we're going to keep coloring and hopefully give you some more ideas, and enjoy. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're actually going to start coloring with our Distress inks. If you've ever seen any videos by any other makers or any of the people out there, Tim Holtz and others, and even Tim Holtz, who says he's not much of a painter or a colorer, will tell you that you can actually paint with Distress inks because they're water reactive. They're a water reactive ink, water-based ink. And one of the great techniques for making backgrounds is smooshing your ink out on the pad, spritzing it with water, and then dragging your background through the inks to create those backgrounds. We'll make a video on that later, but there's plenty of that out there to find online on YouTube, especially from Tim Holtz if you want to find that. So all I'm doing is I'm using a water brush. It's just a pen loaded with water, and you just take and you just dip the tip into the color you want to use and then just color in. And when you get once the color has run off of the tip, then you just go back in for some more ink. And if you have ink left on the nib or on the brush itself, you can just brush that off over on the craft mat or paper towel or whatever you're using. That way you can go in with a different color of ink. So all I'm doing here is just experimenting with laying down some different colors of green, trying to go around the ornaments a little bit, and then we'll go back and put ink over those. But in the end, I kind of decided just to paint the whole thing green and didn't really care, because once you put that other ink on top of it, they do a really good job of holding their color and not necessarily bleeding through. So I actually wound up not worrying too much about the green getting on the ornaments. Then we go back and just touch up with the different color inks in the ornaments. And so we're just experimenting with some different things. I do love the fact that you can get a nice gradient look by using these inks. And you can see there where I just paint, and as the ink runs out, the paint gets a little bit lighter, and you get a nice shaded effect just from using these inks. Just keep painting till you run out of ink, and then if you want to darken up a spot, just grab a little bit more ink. And this looked really, really good. This is actually on the watercolor cardstock, the heavy cardstock. Anytime you're painting with anything that's water-based or any type of a strong water ink, you're going to want to use that watercolor cardstock. So just going in with the darker color and just putting that trim work on there and just kind of all around touching it up. So that's how we're doing that. So we're going to go ahead and just keep painting some more. Feel free to watch and enjoy. Hopefully, like I said, get some more ideas. And happy painting, and enjoy coloring your projects. So what I wanted to do at this point was experiment with some of my watercolors, especially some of my watercolors that have a metallic tint to them. I thought that metallic silver would look really good over a windshield, and I was right. A couple of the cars I did, I got a little too much on there, and less is definitely more in this situation. That front windshield, there's a little bit dark, but it gives it a nice shimmer when it dries. The car itself, and you won't be able to see it on the video, but it has a really nice shimmer and it makes it sparkle, and that works really, really well on if I wanted to use it on the chrome, on the bumpers, or if you want to use it on the tires. And then some of the other metallic colors we had it too. I could have put that, even going back in with some of that blue, and put that over the side of the car to help give a little shine to the car. And same way, just using the watercolor brush just to kind of work with those watercolors. So a lot of different creative ways to color. And by the way, I don't think I ever turned this over to show you the backs of these, but the water, it doesn't bleed through at all. None of the techniques we've used have bled through at all. It's been a great process. It just came out really good. And you'll see when they're all die cut and done at the end, and we show you those, just how good each of these projects actually looks. All right, so here we have our finished products. As I said before, the alcohol inks didn't like the way that worked with the archival ink. Apparently alcohol and the archival ink does react together. So live and learn. Next time we'll just do something a little different than that. We won't necessarily color with the alcohol inks. It was just an experiment anyways. Do like the colors, but we'd have to do something different with that. I like it as a wash, so that might work. But here are all the different pieces. This is the one done with colored pencil, and you can see a little bit of shading in there. It's another one done with colored pencil. It's on very light cardstock. Okay. This is our watercolor cardstock. It's a lot heavier material. I do like the shading with the going back with the paint, with the silver metallic paint on the window, just a little lighter on the front window next time. But this came out really well. Really like this one as well too. You can't see it. There's a little shimmer on the window. And then we've got this one, which I like that as well. So there's our cars. Those came out really, really nicely. All right, these are all of our little funky trees. Now this one, you'll remember we took and we shaded in the background, just kind of scratched over it with a brown pencil, and so you can kind of see that in the background. I like the look of that. The watercolor one, this one also has a little bit of the brown in it. So those are the two we did with the colored pencils. These are the two that we did with the inks and the watercolors, and just tried some different pens and just left the background white. So you can see that looks really nice there. So it's just kind of a funky, nice funky looking tree there. All right, and then we've got, and then these are the trees that we did. Let's pull these over here. So that's colored pencil. It's also colored pencil. And then we've got these two that were done on the watercolor. Came out really well. Didn't put the brown on the bed. We'll go back and add that later. These are the different record players that we did. I like this one, just kind of blue with the watercolor, just the watercolor wash over. I kind of like that one, but colored pencil here, you can see those. I like that purple on that one. So those came out real nice. These two, I didn't like the way these two came out. The colors a little too dark, a little too much going on there with particular what we were trying to do. And then the record got messed up on that. But here's what you do with something like that. You're going to take that, you're going to put it on your card, and you're going to put a piece of foam tape over this, and you're actually going to stack it. And it gives you just a little bit of depth, and it looks like you can see the edges around the underneath, even though the colors don't match. So you can actually stack those and make those look a little bit better. So you'd actually just they'd kind of be on the cardstock just a little bit and give a little 3-dimension. You won't really see all that underneath it. But that's just an option we got. Those came out really well. Here's all of our tables, the colored pencils. I love the shade, a little too dark on that one, but I love the shading of that one. We got our couches here, came out really well. You run them through the die cut machine. Then we've got our funky clocks. Real easy to color those. Real easy to color those. And you see we went with all the yellows on that one. And then here's all of our wreaths. Those came out really well too. And then our fireplaces. So this is colored pencil. I like this one. I liked going back over it with the gray in between there, kind of give it that grout look. Love the fireplace. It was easy to color in with the colored pencil and kind of get that glowing background. This one's a little too much with the watercolors. I didn't like the way it blended in the middle, so I probably won't watercolor that. I know it's on watercolor paper, but maybe with a different technique. This one also on watercolor. I do like the gray. I do like the gray brick and then the dark in the background there. Didn't like the fireplace again. Just it tends to muddy. So for me, when I do this one again, just colored pencils all the way. Colored pencil. I'd probably use a little bit thicker cardstock. But I love this one. I love the light and dark brown brick in the background and the gray in between, and then just a little bit of shading around the fire and the firewood. So that's it, guys. That's your just some encouragement there for coloring and working with stamps and coloring. So I encourage you just to grab your favorite set of stamps, and here they are. You see, we didn't even use all of them. We didn't do the cookies and milk or the boots. We didn't do any of the presents. A little stocking right there, and there's dies to go with all of these. So we didn't do then these snowflakes. We didn't do any of those. But we actually have die for those two as well. And then we just stamped the sentiments on different things. So there you go, guys. That's pretty much it. I hope that encourages you just to get out and just color a little bit. It's one of the favorite things I like about card making. I do like color. It's very relaxing for me. These cards are amazing. I will probably take a piece of cardstock and stamp about 10 or 20 of these, and then just when I'm in a mood, sit down and color. So I really like the cars and the fireplaces. These take a little bit more work. So probably what I'll do on these is, rather than die cut these, unless there's a particular reason I want to die cut them, probably just stamp and color those directly on the card. I will say that, again, one of the things that you can do, and you can do it with more than one, you can actually put a little piece of foam tape on it, and then you can put that piece right there, and then you can put this one on top, and you can actually, with just a thin piece of foam tape behind each one, make this true. You can actually have it coming off the paper in 3D. And you can also do kind of a staggered thing if you want a little bit of a shadowed look, but you can play around with that. But it takes a little bit of work running all this through the die machine, but it's worth it in the end if you want to add some dimension to your cards. And the coloring part of it is definitely fun. Love the trees. This would probably be the style that I'll do with the radio from now on. I love the dark brown on the outside, the lighter brown kind of with that look on the inside. So really like that one. So there you go, guys. Just hope that encourages you just to grab some colored pencils, some markers, even some distress inks, whatever you got, and just go to town coloring. Watercolors especially. Again, this one that we did with the watercolor markers, and then we went back and used the watercolor ink, or the watercolor brick with the watercolor with the water pen. That one came out really well. This one came out really well. So I do love the colored pencils too. They blend really well. You can just press. You don't really blend when you're coloring with a colored pencil. You just press a little bit harder to get the darker places, and then lighter to get the lighter places, obviously. So it's not so much a question of shading. It can be a little tricky to shade colored pencils. You see on this one, if you remember, we did the green, then we went over the green with the yellow. So you might be able to see some of that in there, all right? And then if you wanted to take this later on, you can actually take some clear, some shimmer, spray it with some clear shimmer, just spray it, and the whole thing will have a nice shimmer too. You can do that with any of this. So there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you next time. And until next time, this is Pastor Ian, the Crabby Crafter. Have a blessed day.